Welcome to this presentation of conducting a correlational analysis using PSPP, presented by Daniel Antwi. Agenda. A correlational test was performed on the following variables: debt and savings, income and debt, income and savings, income and stock, savings and stock, savings and wallet, main takeaways of the presentation, and conclusion. PSPP debt and savings. The following correlational test was conducted. The null hypothesis says that there's no correlation between debt and savings, whilst the alternative hypothesis says that there is a correlation between debt and savings. Our rejection rule here says that if the p-value is less than alpha, which is assumed here to be 0.05, then the null hypothesis will be rejected. The correlation coefficient and its p-values were calculated using PSPP, assuming alpha to be 0.05. No significant correlation emerged. We have a correlation coefficient to be negative 0.3 and a p-value happens to be 0.748. And since the p-value is greater than alpha, then this made the test to conclude that the test failed to reject the null hypothesis and concluded that there was no correlation between debt and savings. PSPP income and debt. The null hypothesis indicates that there is no correlation between income and debt, whilst the alternative hypothesis indicates that there is a correlation between income and debt. The correlation coefficient, as can be seen here, is R equals to negative 0.5 with a p-value 0.535. And since the p-value is greater than alpha, the test failed to reject the null hypothesis and concluded there was no correlation between income and debt. PSPP income and savings. The null hypothesis indicated that there is no correlation between income and savings, whilst the alternative, which is the reverse, indicated that there is a correlation between income and savings. The correlation coefficient and its p-values were calculated as can be seen here. The R, or the correlation coefficient, is 0.97 with a p being 0.00, and since the p-value is indeed less than the alpha, which is 0.05, the test rejected the null hypothesis and concluded there was a correlation between income and savings. And as can be seen, there is a stronger positive correlation between income and savings. PSPP income and stock. The null hypothesis indicates that there's no correlation between income and stock, whilst the alpha says there is a correlation between income and stocks. The correlation coefficient, which is R equals 0.9, and a p-value, which is 0.018. And as can be seen, the p-value is less than alpha, which is 0.05. And hence the test rejected the null hypothesis and concluded that there was a correlation between income and stocks. PSPP savings and stocks. The null hypothesis indicates that there is no correlation between savings and stocks, whilst the alternative indicates that there is a correlation between savings and stocks. The correlation coefficient here was 0.28 with a p-value being 0.00, and since the p-value is less than alpha, the test rejected the null hypothesis and concluded that there was a correlation between savings and stock. PSPP savings and wallet. The null hypothesis indicated there is no correlation between savings and wallet, whilst the alternative hypothesis indicated that there is a correlation between savings and wallet. the correlation coefficient of 0.91 with a p-value 0.00, as was employed by PSPP, as can be seen also here, that the p-value, which happens to be less than the alpha, and if that's the case, as the test objectives or the rejection rule indicates, if the p-value is less than 0.05, then the alternative will be, the null hypothesis will be rejected. And for that matter, over here, testing between these two variables, savings and wallet, with a p-value less than the alpha, the test rejected the null hypothesis and concluded that there was a correlation between savings and wallets. Main takeaway from this presentation: the PSPP make correlation analysis fast and easy. Analyze bivariate correlation tests can be performed. A scatter plot can be employed to visualize the correlational test. And PSPP correlational test is not as difficult as it may seem. I therefore want to take this opportunity to thank you for watching this presentation. I open the floor therefore for any possible questions that you may have. Thank you.